you like this video, subscribe for more content.
Committing our ways unto the Lord. So now let's talk about the first marriage and the second marriage. The first marriage and the second marriage. 1 Corinthians 7 and 32.
1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 32. But I will have you without carefulness. He that is unmarried.
So a man that is not married, go ahead,
careth for the things that belong to the Lord.
And so a man that's not married, care for the things that belong to the Lord. Care for the things that belong to the Lord, go ahead.
How he may please the Lord.
How he may please the Lord. So this is getting your first marriage corrected. So let's say a man, he comes into the truth, he's not married yet. Or a woman, she comes into the truth, not married. Then let's say a year later, 6 months to a year later, they see another person in the truth, and they start looking at them for marriage. They like, you know what, I've been in for about 6 months to a year. I want to marry this sister. I want to marry this brother. Guess what? You're not ready. You haven't even. Is 6 months enough time for you to understand all the commandments? And not only understand the commandments, but conquer your own demons. It takes way longer from 6 months to a year for a man or a woman to conquer her own demons. And then you want to try to marry somebody else so those demons can attack your newfound wife or your newfound husband. It don't work like that. Read that again. This is people who are not married and you come into the truth. This is what you should be focusing on. Read verse 32 again.
1 Corinthians 7 and verse 32. But I will have you without carefulness. He that is unmarried careth for the things that belong to the Lord, how he may please the Lord.
So a man, he gonna care for the things on what belongs to the Lord, how he gonna please the Lord. That's the unmarried man. Let's look at the married man, verse 33.
Verse 33. But he that is married careth for the things that are of the world.
It says he that is married care for the things of the world. And what else?
How he may please his wife.
How to please his wife. So that's gonna make it harder. When you come into the truth married, those two people that's married have a way harder time on learning how to please the Lord than the man that's single. And the man or the wife, it's a way harder thing because you have to carry about the things of the world when you marry, on how to please your wife, how to please your husband. That's the things of the world. You got to make sure you look good for your husband. You got to make sure the food is ready. It's just the things of the world. But when you single, you just worrying about how to please the Lord. Keep going, verse 34.
There is a difference also between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman careth for the things of the Lord, that she may be holy, both in body and in spirit.
It's saying the unmarried woman, she's going to care for the things of the Lord. And how to be holy in body and in spirit. Go ahead.
But she that is married careth for the things of the world, how she may please her husband.
How she may please her husband. So it's hard. It's like a split. You try to please the Lord, get right with the Lord, but you also got to please your wife and your husband. So it's like you being split or pulled in both ways. So it's harder. Let's get an example of this. Go to Luke chapter 10. Let's get an example of this. Luke chapter 10, start at 38.
Luke chapter 10 and verse 38. Now it came to pass, as they went, that he entered into a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha received him into her house.
So this is Christ. He went into Martha's house. Go ahead.
And she had a sister called Mary, which also sat at Jesus' feet, and heard his words.
So Martha had a sister Mary that she was at Christ's feet learning everything. She's at Christ's feet learning everything, learning the word, everything. Verse 40.
Verse 40. But Martha was cumbered about much serving.
It says Martha was discumbered, means distracted. Martha was distracted with much serving. She was the one that was serving the food to Christ like she was serving Christ. He said she was distracted about much serving. Go ahead.
And came to him.
And she came to Christ
and said, Lord, dost thou not care that my sister hath left me to serve alone?
She went to Christ and was like, Christ, she not even helping me. Do you care about that? I'm doing all this by myself. Martha's been like a wife. She like, Dad, I want to learn too. But I got to do all this and she not helping me. Christ, do you care? Go ahead and watch what Christ tell her.
Bid her therefore that she help thee.
She said, she asked Christ, can you command her to come and help me? Watch what Christ tell her.
And Jesus answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha.
He like, Martha, Martha. Martha, Martha, go ahead.
Thou art careful and troubled about many things.
He said, you are careful and troubled about many things. This is how a married woman is. She's going to be careful and troubled about many things. Go ahead.
But one thing is needful, and Mary had chosen that good.
It says there is one thing that everybody must need, and Mary chose that. Go ahead.
A part which shall not be taken away from her.
And that can't be taken away from her. So he said Mary ain't worried about serving and all about this other stuff. She's only worried about how to please the Lord. But a wife can't do that. A wife can't put aside her duties to her husband. She can't just put that aside. She's going to have to balance the two. Which means she's going to learn at a slower pace than a woman that's unmarried. That's the difference. So she's got to what? Get her first marriage corrected. They both got to get their first marriage together, but that's the thing. When you come into the truth, you're nowhere near ready to be looking for a wife. Well, I want to prove this brother. I want to prove this sister, or we courted. You don't even know how to please the Lord. If your first marriage is bad, your second marriage is going to be worse. That's the title of the class. The whole reason is you need to be working on you and how to please the Lord. Then you can get. But it's different if y'all coming to the truth already married. That's something different. But it's going to be a distraction for that married man and that married woman. It's going to take them a little more time. And then we in captivity on top of that. Well, we got to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week on top of that. So it's going to be so many distractions. So let's jump more into that. So let's look at the man. So now, for the single men that come into the truth, we're going to look at the basic things. So we know that keeping the commandments, that's how you please the Lord. But we got to look at the basic things for a man to be ready for marriage. We got to look at the basic things. So let's go to Matthew 19. So let's look at a man. Let's say a man, he's in the truth, and now he's been in a few years, and now he thinks he's ready to start looking for a wife. Well, we gonna look at the basics of what a man has to, or not what, but where a man has to be at to even be considered to be a husband, to even, because there's no boyfriends or girlfriends. This ain't like the world where you can just be boyfriend and girlfriend for years until you're ready to be married. No, it don't work like that. You go straight to marriage. You go straight from being ready for marriage, you find a person, and you get married. So let's look at that, Matthew 19, verse 5.
Matthew chapter 19, verse 5. And said, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh.
Let's say, these two gonna be one flesh. Go ahead.
Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let no man put asunder.
So the reason why we got this is we looking at being ready for marriage. When you ready for marriage, this means God is putting this together. When you trying to get married off your own understanding, off your own, and you already in the truth, that's not God putting that together. That's you putting it together. That's Satan putting that together. If you go outside the order of what God say to get married, that's not God joining it, and you supposed to be in the truth. That's not God putting that together. Go to second. You got something? No, go to 2 Ezra 16. Second Ezra 16 in the Apocrypha and verse 75.
Second Ezra chapter 16 and verse 75. But be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for God is your guide, and the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, said the Lord God. Let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves.
So it's like 75. So it's like, and God is the God of them who keep the commandments. So we know that it's about the commandments. And we know that God gonna put two godly people together. He put two guys. He don't put a godly person with a wicked person. I don't care how many movies Tyler Perry made. Now, Tyler Perry always got the most angelic saint person with a demon. In every movie he made, it'll be the nicest person in the world with a damn demon.
That's unequally yoked. It don't work that way.
How do that work like that? He always got the most nicest, sweetest person in the world. Every movie. The sweetest person in the world with a demon that's doing them dirty. It don't work like that. Go to Sirach 26. Let's show it don't work like that. It don't work like that. That's not God putting. God didn't put that together. Sirach 26 and 23.
Sirach chapter 26 and verse 23. A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man.
You see that? A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man. It's not, if your spouse is wicked, you wicked. It's not, I don't care what Tyler Perry say. He keep writing these movies, the sweetest person is with the most evilest person.
Right. You get that Amos 3 and 3.
You want to get that?
Yeah.
It don't work like that.
That's what that's that media. They say opposites attract. That's what they tell you in the media.
The book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 3. Can two walk together except they be agreed?
The answer is no. Two cannot walk together except they be agreed. You have to be in agreement to walk with somebody, to dwell with somebody. If y'all don't agree, it's gonna be confusion all through your house, and it's gonna pull your house apart. So you cannot dwell with somebody if y'all ain't on one accord. So you can't say, you what they say, you's a good girl with a bad boy. It don't work that way. Gotta be on one accord.
Yeah, that God ain't got nothing to do with that. A good girl, what they say, a good guy's finished last. God ain't got nothing to do with that. Go back to read Sirach 26 and 23 again.
Sirach chapter 26 and verse 23. A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man.
Go ahead.
But a godly woman,
go ahead,
is given to him that feareth the Lord.
It's given to somebody that fear the Lord. There's no Tyler Perry plot going on here. It's wicked woman for a wicked man, a godly woman for a godly man. Let's prove that's a person that keep the commandments. Go to Psalms 112. It say a godly woman is given to him that fear the Lord. What is a man that fear the Lord? Psalms 112 and verse 1.
Psalm chapter 112 and verse 1. Praise ye the Lord. Blessed is the man that feareth the Lord, that delighteth greatly in his commandments.
So the man that fear the Lord is a man that delighteth greatly in God's commandments. That's a godly man. Go back to Sirach 37. Let's look at the godly man. Sirach 37 and 12.
Sirach chapter 37 and verse 12. Sirach 37 and verse 12. But be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments.
It says a godly man is somebody you know keep the commandments. Go ahead.
Of the Lord, whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry.
Now let's look at the man, the men ready for marriage, the basic commandments. Go to Genesis 2. The man that's ready for marriage. How do you know you in the truth? The first thing is you keeping the commandments. Because if you're not keeping the commandments and you try and get a wife, guess what? You're going to get a wife that don't keep the commandments. That's all that's going to happen. If you know you struggling with the commandments, if you know you got things you know you need to work on, guess what? Don't be looking for a husband. Don't be looking for a wife. Work on those things. Because guess what? If you struggling with things, if you struggling and still trying to overcome sin, guess what? You're going to get a wife or a husband that's at the same level you at. Now y'all just two people struggling with sin that's married. And Dean is in the house. That's how it works. If you want a godly woman, be a godly man. If you want a godly man, be a godly woman. Don't go after the order of God to get your spouse. Or in other words, fix your first marriage. Fix your first marriage, which is with God. Go to, what I say good? I didn't say nothing. Genesis 2 and 24. So we're looking at men that's possible, just the basic commandments that men should have when they're looking for a spouse.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24.
Well, you know what? Let's come back to that. Go to 2 Thessalonians 3. 2 Thessalonians 3. My bad, y'all. 2 Thessalonians 3. I want to bring this out the right way. 3 and 10.
2 Thessalonians chapter 3 and verse 10. For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat.
So this is a basic commandment for a man. If you don't work, you don't eat. So one of the basic commandments for a man to be considered to be a husband, he has to have a job. This is the most basic level. Go to Sirach 7. This is about, if a man ain't got no job and you walking around here talking about, hey man, I'm ready to be man, go sit down somewhere. Go sit your butt down somewhere and go put in some applications. Talking about you ready for a wife, you ain't got no job. Get Sirach 7 and 15.
Sirach chapter 7 and verse 15. Hate not laborers' work.
It say do what?
Hate not laborers' work.
It say don't hate laborers' work. Go ahead.
Hate not laborers' works, neither husbandry.
Husbandry is crops, like a farmer. Go ahead.
Which the Most High hath ordained.
So it say we not supposed to be hating laborers' work as a man or as a woman. We're not supposed to be hating laborers' work. We're supposed to be working. Go to 1 Timothy chapter 5. Now, let's hit that Genesis 2 now. Genesis 2. Genesis 2 and 24.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife.
So it's saying a man, when he's ready to get married, he got to leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife. Go ahead. Was that it on it?
And they shall be one flesh.
And they shall be one. And they shall be one flesh. So therefore, if a man is going to leave his father and his mother's house, guess what? He got to have a place to go. He got to have his own house. You can't say, so this is another thing. So a man, basic commandments. You got to have a job and you got to have a house or a place to live. To even be considered a man, a husband. You can't say, you can't get married and then you and your wife move into your father's house. You get married, now y'all living with your mama. That's not how it works. You have to have your own, because you said, read it again, verse 24.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother.
It said a man's supposed to leave, not stay. Not get married and come back. A man is supposed to leave, go ahead.
And his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh.
Now go to 1 Timothy 5. So if a man can't do that, ain't no talking about, hey man, I think I like such, man. You're not even considered, you're not even in the running to be nobody's husband. 1 Timothy 5 and 8.
1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 8. But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house.
So it says, a man, if you don't provide for your own house, go ahead.
He hath denied the faith.
It's like you denied the faith, go ahead.
And is worse than an infidel.
And you worse than an infidel. You worse than a wicked person. So you have to have what? A job and your own place. You have to have a job and your own place. Why is that important? Go to Exodus 21. But before that, get Exodus 21. Get Exodus 21. And hit verse 10. That is the duty of a husband, is to take care of the wife. Exodus 21 and 10.
Exodus chapter 21 and verse 10. If he take him another wife, her food.
So it said if he give him another wife, meaning he's divorcing his wife, leaving his wife, and he get him another wife, go ahead.
Her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage.
It said her food, her clothes, and duty of marriage, go ahead.
Shall he not diminish?
He gotta keep doing that. He gotta still take care of that woman. So that's the point. The man is supposed to take care of the woman. It said her food, her clothing, and her duty of marriage. He can't stop doing that. Verse 11.
And if he do not these three unto her,
And if he do not these three things unto her, go ahead.
then shall she go out free without money.
And he said, go out free without money. So the man has to be providing these things. If you can't provide these things, you nowhere near pleasing God. You nowhere near marriage material. Just for the fellas. Go to Sirach 29. Sirach 29 and verse 21.
Sirach chapter 29 and verse 21. The chief thing for life is water, and bread, and clothing, and a house to cover shame.
This is what a man is supposed to be providing for that woman. Oh, they say the chief thing in life is water, food, clothing, and a house. This is your duties as a husband. If you can't do that, nah. Ain't no courting, ain't none of that going on. This is basic things for men. This is on top of you keeping the commandments. If you ain't got these things, you ain't keeping the commandments. Go ahead.
Better is the life of a poor man in a mean cottage than delicate fare in another man's house.
They say a poor man that's living in a shack is better than another man living in another man's house. Y'all see that? It says that's better. A poor man living in a shack is better than a man living in another man's house. This is big, because that's not after God. That's not after God. Verse 23.
Verse 23. Be it little or much, hold thee contented, that thou hear not the reproach of thy house.
24.
For it is a miserable life to go from house to house.
It's a miserable life to go from house to house. That means a man that's going from house to house, now you finna marry a woman and take her through that? Going from house to house? That's not how it goes. You have to get yourself together, then you become marriage material. This is for the men. Read that again, 24.
For it is a miserable life to go from house to house. For where thou art a stranger, thou darest not open thy mouth.
Go to chapter 36. Chapter 36 and verse 26.
Sirach 36 and verse 26. Who will trust a thief well appointed?
Who said, who gonna trust a thief that's in a high position? Go ahead.
That skippeth from city to city. So who will believe a man that hath no house?
It said, who will believe a man that have no house? Go ahead.
And lodgeth wheresoever the night taketh.
And he sleep wherever the night taketh. It said, who gonna believe a man like that? Who gonna get into a covenant? And this is for the women. This question is for the women. Who gonna get into a covenant with a man that have no house? And this man tell you, I'm gonna take care of you the rest of my life. And he not even take care of himself. That's not how that works. Read that again, verse 26.
Sirach 36 and verse 26. Who will trust a thief well appointed, that skippeth from city to city? So who will believe a man that hath no house, and lodgeth wheresoever the night taketh him?
It's like, who gonna believe a man like that, who have no house? That man is not marriage material. Nowhere near. Nowhere near. Say, who gonna believe him? Go to Genesis chapter 2. You can't say, hey, yeah, I'm ready for my wife, and you don't have these things together. And then on top of that, you struggling with the commandments. That's a marriage doomed. Genesis 2 and 18.
Genesis chapter 2 and verse 18. And the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him and help me for him.
So it said, it's not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him. Meaning, the helpmeet is his wife. A helpmeet. Go ahead, verse 19.
And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them.
So now he tasked Adam with the job of naming the animals. Go ahead.
And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof.
Go ahead.
And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helpmeet for him.
So he said, as for Adam, there wasn't found a helpmeet for him. He had to do all this work that God tasked him by himself. He didn't have a helpmeet for him. So when you read further, that's when he created Eve to be his helpmeet. So now, why did I read this? So now, go to Romans 12. Why did I read this? If a man is not serving the Lord, what do he need a helpmeet for? I want y'all to think about that question. If a man is not serving the Lord, what do he need a helpmeet for? If he's not doing the work of the Father, if he's not doing the work that God gave us to do, what the hell do we need a helpmeet for? Remember, Adam got a helpmeet because God gave him work to do. Same thing for us, the men of Israel. We got work to do for our nation. If you're not doing that work, what do you need a helpmeet for? The only reason is for lust. All you gonna do is take a woman to lust on. But if you just living a regular life, and that's what dudes do. They just work, live regular lives, and they got multiple women that they use for sex. They ain't worried about getting married. You can pay a maid. You can pay yourself. But if you're not doing the work of the Lord, what you need a helpmeet for? Go to Romans 12, read verse 11.
Romans chapter 12 and verse 11. Not slothful in business.
It say we can't be slothful in business. Go ahead.
Fervent in spirit.
Fervent in spirit. Go ahead.
Serving the Lord.
Serving the Lord. Not slothful in business. This is, in other words, a slothful man is not marriage material. Being slothful in, we already read about making money, having your own house, providing for a wife. Now we're talking about the business of the Lord. Now you need a helpmeet for that. That's what God gave Eve for. To help Adam with the task that he gave him. He said, it's not good for you. I gave Adam all this work. It's not good for him to be alone. Let me give you a helpmeet. I gave him all this work. Let me give you a helpmeet. That's what a godly man needs. He needs a helpmeet. If you just out here playing and just working, what you need a helpmeet for? Let's get some more. Go to Luke chapter 2. It says, not slothful in business. Luke chapter 2. And let's get the point. Well, let's start at 45. Let's get the whole context.
Luke chapter 2 and verse 45. Luke chapter 2 and verse 45. And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem, seeking him.
So this is Joseph and Mary. They was looking for Christ. Christ was a little boy at this time. He was 12 years old. So he was, read 41. Let's just get the context.
Verse 41. Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover.
Go ahead.
And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast.
So they went to Jerusalem for Passover. Verse 43.
And when they had fulfilled the days as they returned, the child Jesus tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew not of it.
So they was going back home, and Christ stayed. He stayed in Jerusalem, and they didn't know that. Go ahead.
But they, supposing him to have been in the company when a journeys.
Read it again.
When a day's journeys,
Go ahead.
and they sought him among their kinsfolk and acquaintances.
So they thought he was with their family. Go ahead.
And when they found him not, they turned back again to Jerusalem, seeking him.
So they was like, oh, he not with y'all? We got to go back and look for him. He probably still in Jerusalem. Go ahead.
And it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions.
So he in the temple. Now mind, he 12 years old. He in the temple asking them questions and hearing them. Go ahead.
And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers.
And everybody that heard him, they like, damn, this 12 years old know this word. They was astonished, like, this little 12-year-old little dude, who the hell is this dude? They was astonished, like, damn, this dude know what he talking about. Go ahead, verse 48.
And when they saw, they were amazed.
So his parents seen him, and they was amazed. Go ahead.
And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou thus dealt with us?
Say, why you do this to us? Why you didn't tell us you were staying here? Go ahead.
Behold, thy father and I have sought thee sorrow.
Say, we was worried about you. We was looking for you. Watch what Christ told him.
And he said unto them, How is it that ye sought me?
He said, why is it you looking for me? Go ahead.
Wish ye not that I must be about my father's business?
He said, I'm about my father's business. This is the business that when we read in Romans 12, when it say not slothful in business, what business is talking about? Our father's business. If we're not about our father's business, what we need to help me for? Christ told, what y'all looking for me for? You know that I'm about my father's business. I'm handling business. He was 12 years old, they understood that. 12. Said, I'm doing my father's business. So for us to be grown men and we not about our father's business and we talking about we looking for a wife, for what? What do you need to help me for? And you not about your father's business. Because you want somebody to lust on. That's it. Go ahead, verse 50.
Verse 50. And they understood not the saying which he had spoken unto them.
They didn't even understand it. Joseph and Mary, they didn't understand it. Go ahead.
And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was subject unto them. But his mother kept all these things in her heart.
It said, but she remembered that. Verse 52.
And Jesus increased in wisdom.
And he did what?
And Jesus increased in wisdom.
He increased in wisdom. Go ahead.
And stature.
And stature. Go ahead.
And in favor with God and man.
That's what we're supposed to be about our Father's business. We're going to increase in wisdom and in favor. If we're not doing this as men, we don't need a help me. We don't need it. We don't need it. Go to Romo, 1 Corinthians 14. This is another criteria. So these are just basic criteria for people that's not married, that's in the truth. Well, men that's not married, that's in the truth. You gotta have a job. You gotta have a house. You gotta be about the Most High work, the Father's business. And there's one more. 1 Corinthians 14 and 33.
1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 33. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all the churches of the saints.
Go ahead.
Let your women keep silence in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak.
So this is the commandment. Women have to be silent in the church. Go ahead.
But they are commanded to be under obedience, as also said the
Now
law.
this is important for the men. Verse 35.
And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husband at home. For it is a shame for a woman to speak in the church.
So the husband's got to be able to teach his wife. This is another criteria. You got to be able to teach. Because you have to teach her. And she teach the children. So that is another criteria for the men. If you, and these are just basic criteria on top of keeping, and these are commandments as well. So these are just basic for a man that's single and you looking for a wife. If you ain't got these basics, then nah. All you finna do is set a woman up for failure. And struggle. Because you just going to be two married people that's struggling. And then on top of that, y'all got to learn how to please God.